This story took place on May 14th, 2013, going back 7 years from now. The case happened in Linyi, Shandong Province, specifically in Fei County. Fei County is administered under Linyi City in the Linyi area, which everyone knows is an old revolutionary base, part of the Yimeng Mountain region in Shandong. On the morning of May 15th, 2013, in the southern suburbs of Fei County, there was a village very close to the county seat, probably near the South Second Ring Road or the South Outer Ring Road. I reckon the farmers here were mostly vegetable growers, at least that's what I think. There lived an old lady in this village, Granny Lu. Every morning, her son and daughter-in-law would come over for breakfast. It was a daily routine. The young couple hated cooking, so eating at their mother's place was the norm. But on this particular morning, Granny Lu waited and waited, and they still didn't show up long past their usual breakfast time. Puzzled, she called her son, but his phone was turned off. He had 2 phones, and both were dead. She then tried her daughter-in-law's number, and it was also switched off. What on earth is going on? She muttered to herself. This had never happened before. Granny Lu grew anxious like any mother. She worried sick about her son. Her son's house was close by, but it still took a few minutes to walk there. She decided to wait a little longer, but by 10 o'clock, there was still no sign of the couple. I'd better go check on them, she thought. Maybe the young couple had a fight again or something. She hurried over to her son's house, which was located on the outskirts of the village, isolated with no neighboring households. In front of the house was a small woods, and on one side flowed a river. It was such a remote spot. Granny Lu reached the courtyard and pushed the gate. It was unlocked. She stepped inside, calling out her son's name and then her daughter-in-law's, but no one answered. She then tried the main door of the house, which was also open. She wandered from room to room, looking for the couple. The bedroom door was closed, but everything seemed normal except the room was empty. Where could they have gone? She wondered. Then she realized the family dog was missing. She glanced toward the corner of the courtyard, and her heart dropped. The dog was lying there, beaten to death, its brains splattered all over the ground, blood pooling everywhere. Granny Lu panicked. At first, she thought maybe the couple had fought and one of them had killed the dog in a fit of rage, then run off somewhere. Perhaps the daughter-in-law had left, and her son had chased after her. But after thinking it over, she decided she had to call the police. She dialed 110. The police arrived quickly. Initially, since it was reported as a missing persons case, they weren't sure what to make of it. We can't just guess where your son and daughter-in-law went, they told Granny Lu. Let's take a look around the house first. Some of the officers were diligent, while others were not. One attentive policeman noticed that the floor looked like it had been hastily cleaned, with faint traces of blood visible. That's odd, he murmured. He then walked to the bedroom and lifted the pillow, and there, right underneath, was a palm-sized bloodstain. Granny Lu's heart sank. This doesn't look good at all, she said. The officers began searching more carefully. They stepped outside the courtyard and spotted a few scattered drops of blood on the ground. Following the trail, they immediately called the police station for backup, requesting more officers to investigate the scene thoroughly. The police then split up, combing the area around the courtyard. There was nothing but woods, a river, and vegetable fields, making the search straightforward. The river beside the house was called the Wenyang River, a rather poetic name. The water was clear, and as the officers walked along the bank, they noticed something bulky submerged at the bottom. They looked closer and discovered 3 large, bulging-colored plastic bags. Without hesitation, they fished the bags out of the water. The bags were tightly tied, so nothing had leaked out despite being submerged. They laid the bags on the grass and emptied their contents, and what they found was a jumble of garbage, empty cookie wrappers, piles of cigarette butts, ham sausage skins, used toilet paper, and other household trash. Mixed in with the waste were clothes and pants, including a pair of jeans. The seasoned officers knew something was off. No one in their right mind would throw away brand new clothes mixed with garbage like that. Among the clothes, they found 2 bank cards. One was an agricultural bank savings card, and the other was a rural credit cooperative card. They showed the items to Granny Lou and asked if they belonged to her family. She took one look and started crying. The clothes were her sons and daughter-in-law's, and there were tiny spots of blood on them. Let me tell you a bit about Granny Lou's son and daughter-in-law. Her son was Xiao Hu, not the Xiao Hu from our group, the one from Shenzhen. That's a different person entirely. Her daughter-in-law was Xiao Jiang, a beautiful young woman in her 20s. The couple had only been married for half a year. They tied the knot in October 2012, and their wedding had been a grand affair with a huge turnout. The river beside the house was called the Wenyang River, a rather poetic name. The water was clear, and as the officers walked along the bank, they noticed something bulky submerged at the bottom. They looked closer and discovered 3 large, bulging-colored plastic bags. Without hesitation, they fished the bags out of the water. The bags were tightly tied, so nothing had leaked out despite being submerged. Granny Lou's family had spent a fortune building and decorating their son's house, sparing no expense on furniture, all because they were so proud of their son for marrying such a pretty wife. According to official reports, the couple was deeply in love, running a thriving restaurant in the county town and living a happy, prosperous life, so much so that they were even planning to expand their business to earn more money and live an even better life. But here's the truth. The couple wasn't running a fancy restaurant. They were actually selling barbecue at the county night market, operating without a license. And just a few days before they went missing, their barbecue stall had been completely destroyed by the urban management officers, Chengguan. The couple was devastated. Their only source of income was gone. Happy? Prosperous? Far from it. It just goes to show how unreliable some official reports can be. I know I'm rambling, but I can't help it. I have to tell it like it is. Back to the police investigation. With the bank cards in hand, they decided to start there. After checking the records, they found that the agricultural bank card belonged to Xiao Jiang, the missing daughter-in-law. The money in the account, 11,000 yuan in total, had been withdrawn in 6 separate transactions on the morning of May 15th, and the surveillance cameras had clearly captured the person making the withdrawals. The other card, the rural credit cooperative one, traced back to a man named Fu Momo from Xintai County, Shandong. When the police checked, they found that Fu Momo was an elderly man in his 70s. They asked Granny Lou if her family had any relatives in Xintai, but she shook her head. That place is so far away, we don't know anyone there. How did that card end up in my son's pocket? She wondered aloud. The police immediately rushed to Xintai to investigate, and the truth soon came to light. The card was a subsistence allowance card. Fu Momu, the cardholder, was extremely poor, so poor that he didn't even have a proper house to live in. In 2013, he was living in 2 dilapidated cattle sheds. Unimaginable, right? For a socialist country, how could someone still be living in such squalor? But that was the harsh reality. Fu Momo was also in poor health, suffering from heart disease, diabetes, and other ailments that left him unable to work. For a farmer, being unable to labor meant being completely helpless. The villagers, taking pity on his plight, had applied for the subsistence allowance for him, which gave him 55 yuan a month. Some might scoff at how little that was, but I have to say you can't complain. That money was a gift from the government, a lifeline for a sick, elderly man. You should be grateful for it. After all, you'd have nothing without it. Fu Mumo was so frugal that he never spent the 55 yuan. Instead, he gave the card to his son, Fu Gang, a 26-year-old man. Fu Gang would wait months 2, 3, even 4 until the balance accumulated to 100 or 200 yuan, then withdraw it all at once and squander it recklessly. So, Fu Gang was the actual user of the card. When the police investigated Fu Gang, they found out he was a no-good troublemaker. He'd dropped out of junior high and spent his days loafing around, mixing with the wrong crowd. He'd even been sent to labor camp twice, but it hadn't reformed him one bit. The police then looked into who Fu Gang hung out with and discovered he was always with 3 other young men from the same village in Xintai County, Zhang Xuejun, Wang Jiyun, and Zhao Feng. The investigation took another breakthrough when they found that Xiao Feng was the one who had withdrawn the money from Xiao Zhang's bank card on the night of May 14th. The police knew they were halfway to solving the case. They had their suspects. Unlike the suspenseful cases I usually talk about, where the culprit is revealed at the very end, I'm not going to drag this out. We are here to tell the whole story, step by step, no need for unnecessary twists. The police quickly locked in on the 4 young men. They also interviewed villagers in the area, who reported seeing 4 suspicious young men loitering in the woods near the village on the afternoon of May 14th. The descriptions matched Fu Gang, Xiao Feng, Wang Jiyun, and Zhang Xuejun perfectly. It was clear these were the culprits. Let me tell you a bit about these 4 young men. They were all dropouts from poor rural families, hanging around doing nothing but getting into trouble. Fu Gang, nicknamed the Fat Guy because of his size, was the oldest at 26. Despite his family's poverty, he was 1.8 meters tall and weighed a whopping 208 jin, 104 kilograms, a towering, bulky figure. Xiao Feng was the youngest, only 17. The other 2, Zhang Xuejun and Wang Jiyun, were 21 and 23 respectively. Their families were slightly better off than Fu Gang's. They at least had proper houses instead of cattle sheds, but they were still dirt poor. Like many rural dropouts in China, these 4 had no desire to work or endure hardship. Their days were spent loitering in internet cafes, playing games, with no goals or ambitions. There's a huge population of young people like this in rural China, wandering the streets, wasting their lives away. I've talked about my own youth before. We used to wander the streets at midnight too, though we called it night patrols to make it sound cooler. Back then, we didn't have internet cafes to waste time in. If we had, we would have been glued to the screens there instead of roaming around aimlessly. Where did they get their money? From theft and robbery, of course. They'd steal and mug people, then spend the cash on food, drinks, internet, and cheap hotel rooms. Some might call this a carefree life, but it was nothing more than a cycle of crime and punishment. Get caught, go to jail, get out, and do it all over again. I've seen plenty of people like this, guys who've been in and out of prison 3, 4, even 5 times. To them, it's just a way of life. They think working an honest job is for suckers, that stealing is easier and more exciting. This cycle of recklessness led them to Fei County. It all started on May 13th, 2013, when the 4 young men gathered at an internet cafe in Xintai County. After gaming for hours, they decided to hit the road. They often hopped on buses, drifting from one small town in Shandong to another, Lini, Tai'an, Jining, robbing and stealing wherever they went, always moving to avoid getting caught. As they walked back from the internet cafe that day, Zhang Xuejun started talking to the other 3, especially Fu Gang. "Hey, fat guy," he said, "a while back, I broke into a house in Fei County. I didn't steal much money, but man, that house was nicely decorated. Must have belonged to a rich family. I just had bad luck not finding any cash. But you know what stuck with me? I saw their wedding photos hanging on the wall, and the bride was drop-dead gorgeous. Like, straight-up celebrity-level beautiful. I can't stop thinking about her. Her face is in my head day and night, even when I sleep. I'm obsessed with her. He paused, grinning maliciously. Here's an idea. Let's go back to that house. Let's rob them blind, and then we'll take turns with that beautiful bride. She's so hot, she deserves it, right? We can't keep wasting our time with random hookers. This one's gonna be way better. The other three jumped at the chance. Hell yeah! They exclaimed. That sounds awesome, let's do it. Young and impulsive, they were all in no hesitation whatsoever. Fu Gang even complained, "Why didn't you tell me about this earlier? Let's head to Fake County tonight, let's go." The four of them rushed to the bus station, hopped on a long-distance coach, and arrived in Fake County that very night. They checked into a cheap hostel near the bus station, plotting their next move: break into the house, rob the couple, gang rape the bride, and if things went south, kill them. They didn't care about the consequences. They were blinded by greed and lust. The next day, May 14th, the four men slept in until 2 or 3 in the afternoon. They then flagged down a farm truck and told the driver to take them to the South Outer Ring Road. Once they were dropped off, they cut through the back roads. Zhang Xuejuan knew the area well from his previous burglary. They soon reached the outskirts of the village and spotted the couple's house, just as Zhang Xuejuan had described it. Near the house was an abandoned water pump house and a small woods perfect for hiding. Since it was still early, they decided to wait until dark to strike. 3 of them were armed with knives. Only Fu Gang didn't have a weapon. They sat in the woods, smoking and chatting, killing time until nightfall. According to their later confessions, they even took 4 dumps in the woods while they waited. Around 6 o'clock in the evening, they saw the young couple returning home, walking hand in hand, looking affectionate. Official reports later gushed about how the couple was discussing expanding their business as they walked, but that was a load of nonsense, just like everything else in those reports. The 4 men watched as the couple entered the house. It was still light out, and there were villagers nearby, so they knew they couldn't break in yet. They waited a little longer, keeping an eye on the house to make sure no one else was inside. Before long, the couple came back out, got on a scooter, and rode away. The coast was clear. "Now's our chance," they whispered to each other. They scaled the courtyard wall, and that's when they noticed 2 surveillance cameras mounted on the wall, one at each end. Fu Gang took a knife from Xiaofeng, cut the camera wires, and ripped the cameras down, then jumped into the courtyard. Next, they turned their attention to the house's window, which had iron bars. During his previous burglary, Zhang Xuejuan had noticed the bars were poorly welded and easy to pry open, and the couple had never bothered to fix them, thinking no one would break in twice. The 4 men easily bent the bars apart and climbed into the house. Once inside, they saw a plate of leftover stir-fried vegetables and a slice of watermelon on the coffee table. The youngest of the group, Xiaofeng, opened the refrigerator and found half a watermelon inside, with a knife mark on the rind. "Hey, guys, they've got watermelon!" he yelled, cutting it up and passing the slices around. "Let's eat first, quench our thirst." After finishing the watermelon, they opened the freezer and discovered ice cream bars. They were over the moon. "Holy shit, these people are loaded!" they exclaimed, grabbing the ice cream and devouring it greedily. They then hid in the bedroom, knives at the ready, waiting for the couple to come back. Let me quickly describe the house layout. It was a typical rural courtyard house with a main building covering 120 square meters, divided into 5 rooms designed just like a modern city apartment. When you walked in the front door, there was a large living room, with a bathroom directly opposite. On either side of the bathroom were 2 bedrooms, and there was a kitchen attached to the side. It was a spacious, comfortable home for a young couple. The 4 men waited in the bedroom, and around 7 o'clock, they heard the sound of the scooter pulling up outside. They knew the couple was back. They tensed up, grabbing their knives, and stood ready to strike.